بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream, coming to you from the third floor of the La Cocina Soup Kitchen after having an immensely successful fundraising event in which we pretty much I think we definitely met our goals for sure. No, actually, we definitely did meet our goals, and we may even surpass them because there were some checks that are not counted in the launch good. And that was all by your support and all the volunteers and everyone who helped out. Of course, La Cocina is a soup kitchen. You can check it out at lacocina367.org, 367, of course, being the address, because La Cocina, there's so many La Cocinas out there. Restaurants, usually Mexican restaurants. We're here only a mile out from the famous Bob Wood Medical Center and University Hospital too, very prestigious one. And we're brought to you by GRT, Global Relief Trust, which is always raising funds for Gaza, and we have helped them raise over 110,000 GBPs, Great British Pounds. And Omar, that's not even visible, that one. They got to give us one with a white background. Yeah. But anyway, today, let's get straight to our program. You know, I despise podcasts that have these long intros, and you got to wait. Let's get straight to our guest today and our subject matter. So the first thing we're going to cover is the subject of what makes a good married life. You know, we just started Starboard. And maybe Shaykh Mahdi one day can be one of our mentors because he knows his stuff. And mashallah, starboardmarriage.com, we've started it. We also now give mentorship to people who they're trying to get married. We give mentorship now to people who are engaged and people who are already married, but they never got mentorship. People need to learn. That's why, right? This is a subject that requires knowledge. Shaykh Mahdi, you all know Shaykh Mahdi Lak. He teaches our Shafi'i fiqh and our Arabic language. Bismillah, tafaddal.
Oh, mashallah, barakallahu feek. Assalam wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. So the question about what makes a good marriage, this is becoming a hot topic, and it's getting hotter and hotter. I've definitely noticed this being out in the West, in the UK, because I've been, as you may be aware, I've been going around different masjids. I've been doing talks on the depression anxiety book, other books, and of course, this book that we're talking about right now, Huquq Zawjayn. I've done a few talks on this, and there are huge problems now with divorce. We're getting very, very high divorce rates in Muslim communities. I was in Birmingham, for example, the second largest city of the UK, back in the summer, and I was at actually one of the biggest masjids in the city, and I spoke to one of the brothers in charge there, and he said that they're dealing with several divorce cases every week, getting to the point where he's actually had to deal with a case where a couple's getting married on Monday and the divorce is being done on Friday.
People going into stuff without knowledge. That's really what it is, without contemplation.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah, yesterday we started this course at British Muslim College last night. It's an online course. It's running for 8 weeks, covering this book by Sheikh Abdul Hadi al-Kharasa, who's a great Hanafi Marja from Damascus. And so what I laid out, this is my introduction, I built it up and I said, well, number one, your most important relationship is with Allah.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. This is the foundation of every other relationship you're going to have. The first relationship is your relationship with Allah. Your relationship with Allah has to be sound, and by that, obviously, I do not mean perfect. I mean it's sound in the sense that when you do slip, you turn back to Allah and you seek to repent and you seek to rectify yourself. And then when that is in place, and when you accept that you have the relationship with Allah, and furthermore, I talked about how you are Allah's slave, right? Now, obviously, I know people have this aversion to the word slave, but yes, to be a slave to another human being is humiliating. To be a slave
Mm-hmm.
to another human being is degrading. To be a slave to Allah is an honor. To be a slave to Allah it's sharaf. It's an honor. And this is one of the things that al-Qadi Iyad said, right? The great Maliki scholar, when he said what increases me in sharaf, right? So much so that I feel like I'm walking on the Pleiades, like I'm walking on
Subhanallah.
Thuraya. Is that Allah? You've included me in your statement. Yeah, ibadi.
Subhanallah.
I'm part of that. When you say yeah, ibadi, all my slaves, I'm part of that. And then he said after that, and then you've made Ahmed my prophet. Sallallahu alaihi
Subhanallah.
wasallam. So to be a slave to Allah is a sharaf. It's an immense thing. The fact that with Allah you can call Allah at any time, you can talk to Allah at any time, which is completely different when you're dealing with human beings and earthly rulers and so forth, where you have to book an appointment well ahead of time, and then when they finally agree to see you, it's going to be for short, maybe 15 minutes, and when you're with this person, he's going to be distracted, and he'll have other phone calls coming in, people coming out of the room, so forth. No, but with Allah, it's prestigious. It's what Imam Sha'arabi called this. It's prestigious. Slavehood with Allah. So, but my point is, when you accept that, then you accept that Allah knows you best. Allah created you, and Allah knows you best. And Allah knows what you need. Allah knows what you need to do to be happy. Allah knows what you need to function on this earth. And therefore, you're going to accept what the Messenger of Allah has told you, what Allah has told you, and what the Messenger of Allah has told you about how to be a husband, how to be a wife, what
Mm-hmm.
your rights are, what your responsibilities are. Because if you think that your happiness in general and your happiness in a marriage is going to lie outside of that, then you're deluded.
Mm-hmm.
You're just mistaken. You have to accept what Allah has laid out and what the Messenger of Allah has laid out for you. So when we've established that, then we're ready to accept that. Again, this is what you were saying before. And this is the big problem. People are getting into marriages
Mm-hmm.
and they have no idea what the rights and responsibilities are. Like, so I was like just last week, for example, with the Shafi fiqh class, the essentials class, we're doing Risal al-Jami, and we came across this hadith, طلب العلم فريضة لكل مسلم, right? Seeking knowledge is an obligation on every Muslim. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, well, obviously, yes, every Muslim prays, every Muslim does, right? Every Muslim prays. Therefore, every Muslim has to know. You have to know the fiqh of wudu. You have to know what is water, what is ghusl, because ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. Whatever the wajib needs to be completed is also wajib. And then I went through the list and I said, okay, do you fast? Okay, well, if you're able to fast, you have the sita'at to fast. Do you have to know the fiqh of fasting? Do you have money? Do you pay zakat? Do you have money saved up? Do you have zakat al-fitr? Are you involved in business? Do you have trade goods? Do you have a farm? Do you have livestock? Well, then you need to know the zakat. That's into these things. Are you going to go for Hajj or Umrah? Well, then you need to know the fiqh of that. You can't don't do what a lot of people do, just get on a plane and land in Mecca and hope that someone will take you by the hand. No, you have, like Imam An-Nawawi makes this very, very clear in al-Idah, his book al-Idah, says before you go for Hajj, number one, you pray istikhara to see if this is the year where Allah has invited you. And then number two, you do the fiqh, you study the fiqh. And then the same thing applies to transactions. Same applies if you're involved in any sort of business, a sharika. Well, you need to know the fiqh of that sharika, whatever sharika you've set up. Whether you're doing a waqf, you're doing whatever it is, you need to know. And then obviously, when it comes to marriage, you need to know the ahkam of marriage. So why are people diving into marriage with I don't know what kind of expectations, but not knowing anything about, okay, what are my husband's rights over me? What are my wife's rights over me? What am I expected to do? Who takes priority? Like the very, very first hadith we covered yesterday, the very, very first, this is the first hadith that the Shaykh starts with, is a hadith where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the person who has the most right over a woman is her husband, and the person who has the most right over a man is his parents, right, or his mother. That's why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says his mother, and then the Shaykh says by extension, the father is implied in this. But for example, once you have that laid out, okay, now it's a simple system. So if you're a woman and you're getting caught between, okay, well, my dad's saying this and my brother's saying this and my mom is saying that. Okay, what is your husband telling you to do?
Yeah, humans need order.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we need oneness and focus. If in anything, oneness of focus actually beautifies it. Whereas and distraction, if even in storytelling and filmmaking and novel writing, they always look at the unicity of the attention of the reader or of the viewer. And same thing with paintings, same thing with companies. In building a company, this is like something totally unrelated, but it also connects with human psychology. What are you communicating to the customer? How many different things are you communicating? You're distracting him. Whenever human beings are focused, our minds are stable, our hearts are stable, and we're able to build upon that. But without that certain things, how do we know how to focus it? Like without revelation, how would we know, like, who do I owe number one priority to? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And this, so this is why the Shaykh Abdul Hadi al-Kharsa, hafidhahullah, like he says in the introduction, he says, how many are the people who, they get married and then they're just absolutely miserable and then it leads to divorce. And he said these people, he said you can count them amongst the living, but they're really among the dead. Like they're just living such horrible, miserable lives, and they don't know why. And one of the things I said last night is like people have to have like a realistic grasp of marriage. Some people have very idealistic ideas of marriage. They watch like Bollywood movies or Hollywood movies or everything that they sort of think like you're going to ride off into the sunset and it's going to be all hunky dory, like a fairy tale. And then when the first issue comes up, you think, oh, my marriage is a failure. I got to end it now. It's like no. This is human life. Welcome to planet Earth. This is how you're going to have trials and tribulations. I remember I was talking to a brother about this recently. Because he had a marriage issue, but I remember when I first got married, when I was first considering getting married to my wife. Now my wife, mashallah, like she's known for her, she's a tajweed teacher, like she's known for her hifz and her tajweed, mashallah. And I remember I was talking to a sheikh I know in Leeds, Sheikh Muhammad Tahir. He's a Libyan sheikh. He's been in Leeds for a long time, and I used to translate his khutbahs way back in the day, like 20 years ago. And I was seeking his advice, his counsel. And he was just very, very blunt with me. And he said, okay, so why do you want to marry her? And I said, oh, well, mashallah, she's got excellent tajweed and everything. And he's like, okay, so you think marriage is a giant tajweed lesson? Is that what, is that your understanding? You're just going to sit down and she's going to like recite Quran to you for the next 75 years. So is that, but so again, I'm not saying it's a good thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But people don't see the reality of it. Again, like I was talking to a brother about this as well. People, because we had the ahadith when you're choosing a partner. The Messenger of Allah said like a woman is married for four things. She's married for her beauty and her lineage and her wealth. But fadfar bidhat Deen, talk about yadak, like go for the Deen. But what we discussed, we said that when people think of Deen, they tend to restrict it to ibadah. Right. Yeah. We tend to have like a very narrow understanding what Deen is. Okay, so like, okay, I'm gonna marry this woman because, okay, good, she prays 5 times a day, she recites Quran, she fasts Ramadan, she pays her zakat, she's done Hajj, okay, but what about her character? Or his character? Both of them. What about his or her character? Like, are these people, this person that you're considering marrying, is he or she affectionate? Are they compassionate? Do they do? Because again, we had this expression, like it's in the Quran, وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. Like which we translate as small kindness, and we call them small, but they have such a huge effect in a marriage. Like it's so significant to have a partner who just says nice words to you, gives you a hug, gives you a kiss. These are such crucial things. A pat on the back, a shoulder rub. These are things that people sort of overlook. And I when I've done talks in this book and so forth, I've had like I find weird to me, like questions come up and people say like, okay, I've been married to so-and-so, but my husband never talks to me or never talks or never acknowledges me or never says anything. It's like, okay, well, like what's going on? Are some people assuming that, are some husbands assuming that their role in the marriage is merely like financial? Is that it? Like you're just there to put a roof over the head and pay the bills so and in Hanafi fiqh, for example, like I think this is mentioned in this book. It's also mentioned by Muhammad Zuhaili in his Mawsu', his encyclopedia, that can be grounds for a divorce. Like a woman can complain to a qadi about that and say like my husband is not showing me affection. He doesn't acknowledge me. He doesn't say anything nice to me. He doesn't. So we have to expand our understanding of like Deen. Like Deen is not just the ritual worship, because all that ritual worship, the prayer, the fast, and all of that is meant to refine your character. We seem to like overlooked
It's
that. I
got
don't
to
know.
have an impact.
Yeah, yeah, because in a salat tanha anil fahsha'i
Yeah.
wal munkar, right? Like your prayer would preclude all those things, it would prevent all those things. So we need to be in a situation where people are embracing the character, taking on the good character of husband or wife. And when you embrace that good character of husband and wife, which is rooted in slavery to Allah, rooted in love of Allah, rooted in love of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then your marriage, it's not going to be a case where the two of you are viewing it like merely contractually and you're walking around clipboards, like ticking the boxes and saying, yes, I got my right today.
Yeah.
No, you actually love each other, and you're doing these things out of the goodness of your heart, and moving forward, and just basking in Allah's glory as you do it. But these seem to be lost on people. People seem to have these ideas of that marriage is going to be some wonderful thing. I'm not going to have any trials or tribulations. I've met, Mr. Perfect or Mr. Right or Mrs. Wonderful, whatever it is. And then people get sorely disappointed, and then they just want to
Yeah.
head for the nearest exit.
This subject is so fluid. Marriage is so fluid. There's so many different factors. There's so many different cases, certain scenarios, people that are, they're in different scenarios. It's like an ocean. And the bigger something is, the more constant it needs to be talked about. And I think that there are very few dawabits. You can't take marriage like you can take hajj. And let's divide it up. Okay, let's divide it up into the arkan, and then the fara'id, and then what nullifies your ihram, and then what nullifies all hajj and other things. Like, you can't take it like, it's very hard, I should say. Maybe you can, but you're always going to need to discuss other things, because children are an X factor. Location of in-laws is an X factor. Like, so many different possibilities. Order of children will affect marriage. The gap between children will affect marriage. What you have around you, your resources, your wealth, your schools, your community, that will affect a person's marriage. Like, there's a huge difference between a couple that has a massive support system and friends and masajid and a place to go, and people who don't. I mean, I talked to a guy, he's got 6 kids. They don't have a masjid to go to, right? There's no youth center masjid that has any. It's a huge factor, right? Because you're lacking support. Convert, not convert, culture, different culture, inner culture. There are so many X factors. The only solution is to constantly nonstop talk about it in any way, shape, and form. People study a lot of stuff, but they don't study this thing, right? And this thing can be made better by study. What do you think?
I have an idea. This is something I am working on, and mashallah, the British Muslim College have taken on the study as well. And I would love your feedback on this. And here we are declaring it here on NBF. In Malaysia, Shafis, in the Muslim majority states in Malaysia, you have to pass an exam.
Yeah.
Do a passing in order to do Hajj. And it's this, and you actually practice on a mock Kaaba and everything. And they have the same thing for marriage. Like, before the state is going to marry you off, you have to do a course, pass an exam, show that you know what you're getting into, and then they will marry you off, right? And I've spoken to people here in this country about that. I spoke to Dr. Jen Sher Azam, who I believe you know, and he said to me that he looked into this, and when they did this in Malaysia, they managed to bring divorce rates down by about 70%.
It's insane. You have to pass a class to drive a car.
Yeah.
To make Hajj in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
Probably in Indonesia too, maybe.
I don't know about Indonesia, but Malaysia definitely, and they used to do it in
sure.
Singapore. They used to do it in Singapore as well. But
you need to pass a class to do a lot of things in this country, right? You can't touch gas in people's homes, fixing the gas lines and stuff without extensive certification. Plumbing.
Yeah.
You can't do a lot of that without extensive certification. But let's get involved with each other's lives. Let's physically produce a child, and let's just take it, roll the dice, and let's just wing it.
Yeah, exactly.
This makes no sense, right?
On a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, it literally makes no sense.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. So what I've been thinking about trying to do, I've been trying really hard through my contacts. I'm trying to get that course material that they have in Malaysia. I would love to take that course material they have in Malaysia, and then sort of tweak it for more of a Western audience, English speaking audience. And I've spoken to Meshits about this in the UK, and there's people who are like on board. I even spoke to like Dr. Mahmoud Al-Bulti in Syria about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, get it for me too. We can use it, because and I said obviously out here in the West we can't do that at obviously the government level, but I'm saying
Yeah.
if Meshids, for example, said to couples, prospective couples, listen, we will not marry you until you do this course. Like you have to do this course, pass the exam, and then we will marry you. And if you do our course, pass the exam, and we marry you, and after that you have problems, we will counsel you.
Yeah.
But if you don't do our course, we're not going to counsel you, right? You're on your own, right? Just put that marker down that you need to do this course. So for example, that's what's happening with British Muslim College. Like they're so because they've been which is part of Bradford Muslim College. British Muslim College is the online version, but because they've been running strong for many years now, and they have a big pool of students. They've actually said to their students, like if you're going to be they want to start like a marriage service, like an internal marriage service, but they say, okay, in order for this to happen, you need to do the course, the course I'm delivering now. You need to do this course, and they'll do an exam at the end, and then you're eligible for the marriage service. Then we will start looking for a potential spouse for you. So I think this is the way we can move forward. Is we need to be a lot more strict about who we help get married. Like we can't just be doing a nikah here and there, especially people in the position of meshids or imam. You can't just be marrying people off.
Yeah.
And it's clear that like what do these people actually know?
I'd like to take it a step back too, and you need to actually go into the junior high level, middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. You're not going to talk much about marriage, but you are going to talk about life, and that this is the natural progression of life that Allah created for us, and this is the best. Nothing makes you happier in life as Allah made us, more than iman, number one, and then another person, right? The opposite gender that you marry, then you become close to them in every single way possible, and that's what marriage is, right? I'm gonna be friends with a lot of other people, but you're not gonna touch each other. So it's far more intimate than anything else. Look at how Allah Ta'ala created Adam. He created Adam as Arif. He knew Allah Ta'ala. He was created saying Bismillah walhamdulillah. He created Adam alayhi salam, and the first thing he gave him was knowledge. Then Adam gave a speech to the angels. Then Adam went and explored an amazing creation, non-human, and was tired of it after some period of time, to the point that he took a nap from it, right? Which is why they say that al-jar qabla ad-dar, right? Like the human is more important than like the house that you buy. It's like, who are you living with, amongst? So more important than anything else being in paradise is, who am I there with? I'm going to be all alone. So then Allah Ta'ala created Hawa from him, and that was her first lived experience, is as with Adam alayhi salam as his wife. She didn't live alone and then marry him. What is Allah telling us through this? Like we can glean messages from this. The first message is that iman is the number one thing that makes a human being happy. Number two thing that makes a human being happy is a spouse to marry, and having a good married life. Look at psychology today. The number 1, 2 reasons for suicide. Number 1, I don't know my purpose in life. Number 2, nobody loves me. And that's why I'm not backing down from some of these people on Instagram who are so, I guess you could say, programmed is the right word. They're so programmed that the moment that you say marriage is more important than career, there's literally have a breakdown, go into a rage. I would want to respond, but I couldn't find any substance to respond to. But they go in a rage. But we're not backing down from this. Rage all you want, and maybe that's exactly going to be this type of behavior is exactly why people aren't getting married, right? But if you're acting like that, that's probably why you're not getting along with anybody, because you rage.
No, that's why no one wants to marry you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So the socialization, the belief in society has to be trickled down from an early age, and we really have to break down. There is a stigma. It's great to talk about divorce and bemoan divorce. That's acceptable in society, but to actually tell people openly in their Islamic centers, in their Islamic schools, wake up to real life. The number 1 thing is your deen, and number 2 thing is your household. Number 3 thing is going to be the money that you make, because, and it is a thing, it's really important to make, otherwise you're not going to have a marriage if you don't make money, right? And when you talk about deen, one of your religious obligations is to support your family. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, "Tardawna deenahu wa khuluqa," from his deen is to fulfill the obligation financially, right?
Yeah.
So that is huge. It's a humongous part of it. But look at the weight that we're putting on things in comparison to what we are all admitting is far more important. From like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, all right, prepare for high school. All right, prepare for college. All right, prepare for grad school. All right, for what? So you can work and have a career and make money. All right, fine. That's priority number 3. So if you're spending 8 hours a day on priority number 3 for 12 years, right? Then what is priority number 2 getting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Priority 2 is getting like a 5-hour premarital course, right?
That's possible.
All right, continue for us.
But I'm going to say, I know there are a lot of people who are not Muslim who put onto this, right? Even people like more like the right side of the spectrum. I mean, I remember like Jordan Peterson talked about this stuff before going full blown Zionist. Stefan Molyneux, like who's like an atheist, and he talked about this because he used to tell. I remember seeing videos of him this way back. This might be 10 years ago, but telling people, like telling women who are, especially women who are so driven in that career mindset, saying that, listen, when you are old and sick, your clients and customers aren't going to give a rip about you.
SubhanAllah.
They're not going to come see you.
Yeah.
Right. When you're old and you're disabled or you're weak and you need help, none of these clients and customers, none of them are going to care about you.
Yeah.
But if you have kids, if you have grandkids, if you have a spouse, they will look after you. Yeah. They will be there for you. That's something that people just don't value. I mean, like for example, I was just talking to because you were talking earlier about the importance of physical contact and having that affection and the compassion, the intimacy. I was talking again to a brother yesterday. I think I mentioned this in the course yesterday. How during back to COVID lockdown days, and there's some pictures that really hurt. There's a hurt, like painful to look at, because there are elderly people. These are not Muslims. These are elderly people in care homes who, prior to the lockdowns, they would have their grandkids and their kids visit them. Yeah. Right. And their kids would come into the care home. And spend time, and then obviously there would be physical contact. There would be the hugging and the kissing and the cuddling and whatnot. And then the lockdowns happen, and then the contact is reduced to just like waving out the window. That's terrible, man. They all probably died really quick. Yeah, because and I saw like before and after pictures, and it's heartbreaking. You want to cry because people are. I saw pictures of people like literally shrivel up. Like literally shrivel up, like you see like a woman, like before she looks like a grape and then she looks like a raisin. It's like just how like loneliness, grief and loneliness is the number one reason old people break down really quick, and the number one reason why a certain breakdown could actually be leveled off and slowed down is attention, and you're keeping them busy. Right? Distraction, all those things. Keep your mind sharp, keep your heart pumping because you care about something now, right? And you got people encouraging you, got people feeding you, you got people. And looking at old age, when people take their parents in, they get a very, very, very intimate, and they become very knowledgeable on the nature of old age. And you realize there is nothing better in old age than pious kids. Who will do what no government care whatever a nursing home will do, right? The idea of a nursing home is like almost like, I know some people have to do it, they have no choice, but it's like torture. It's like going to jail. Like, these people don't care about you. Yeah. Right. And their amount of abuse that happens there is unspeakable. The person can't even talk. The old person can't even remember, can't report anything. And they're getting abused. It's like a type of torture. And it's all connected. All these family things are connected. And someone is saying here, like, why we have to talk about this so much? Let me ask you something. What is society made out of? Is it not made out of families? Yeah, that's the building block. Yeah, I mean, the human being cannot exist by himself. You don't have a proton, you have a cell, right? Or you have an atom. You have protons, neutrons, electrons. You don't see protons going around. The proton says, I want to leave, right? I'll live on my own. You can't exist. It doesn't exist. It does not exist, right? You are part of this system, whether you like it or not. The better off it is, the better off human beings are in society is. So
if you look at Iblis, number one attack is on this. The proof being the hadith of the Prophet, peace be upon him. It says everybody, all the devils report back to Iblis at the end of the day. And they say, what did you do? I did this. I made him skip a prayer. I made him smoke. I made him do this, that, or the other. And he's not impressed by any of that. Finally, one guy says, I've been working on a project for a long time. I finally got a couple divorced. And Iblis says, you come right next to me here. And he seats him next to him, meaning like you are now honored.
Yeah.
Because once you do that, you create so much trauma in people. Right? So much trauma that sometimes they never recover. It's only 10 years, they'll be filled with rage. Right? So that's why I think it's got to go back to the priority. It's got to be, we got to even go back to elevating this as a priority that trickles down in masajid, that this is really the number 2 thing that's going to benefit your life. And if you think otherwise, you're just flat out wrong. You know, people think otherwise. Well, think it until you're all alone. You're flat out wrong. That's it.
Yeah, I remember also I think it was Sheikh Yusuf Gabra was talking about this, how the fact that, you know, if Allah says inni ja'al fil ardi khalifa, you're like we are Allah's vicegerents on earth. How is that maintained unless we procreate and reproduce?
Yeah.
And how do we procreate and reproduce unless we get married? Like this is absolutely crucial to our entire function and purpose. Why we're even here. And the point you make about the like, you know, taking care of parents and what that means. I remember Imam Shadee, he made this beautiful point. He made this beautiful point in his tafsir about, you know, the beautiful thing of a 3-generation household. Is like when you have children growing up, and they can see the parents, like the dad going to work or the mother in the house, but then they see the grandparents in the house as well. And it's like, so they see people at the end of their life. So they see the grandparents, you know, praying, doing a lot of the dhikr, like preparing, and so they can see the whole trajectory in front of them. Okay, so they know, okay, I'm gonna grow up to come to that, and then I'm gonna end up like that. They see the path, right?
That's so important. Keep going. Sorry to cut you off.
So if people don't are sort of deprived of that, they don't see like how life progresses and how it ends. Then you're just cut off. You're not seeing the whole thing. And again, that's how we're supposed to be. Like we're supposed to be like family based. We're not individualists like in the West, where people make such a big deal about, you know, my individual good, my individual benefit, and then you go and you run off with your career or whatever, but then you don't have anyone. We like to before we take steps, major decisions, we like to consider, okay, how is this going to affect my family? How will this affect my parents? How will this affect my siblings? How, like, we think about these things. It's not just like, this is my career and I'm off with it.
You know, when you mix up ages, you get that mental stability, because I see like, all right, that's where I'm going with my life. And youth, when they hang out with the older brothers of their friends, right, it's so powerful. Like when a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old hangs out with a 18 and a 23-year-old. And that's actually what happened organically in our communities, right? In the past and in the present, is that you always had a friend who had an older brother, and that older brother had his friends. So by necessity and just organically, you got a bunch of 14-year-olds, and sort of on the second level of the friendship are these 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds, because they're connected through the sibling, and then connecting to other guys. So what you do is you get examples, and human beings need modeling more than anything else, more important than a book. That's why I was going to tell you that this stuff is like a senad, and the senad is what company you keep, right? The senad is the idea of like, I saw that guy. Okay, this is what he's doing. He's going to medical school. He has a job. He's getting engaged. He's getting married, and then you're always following them, right? If they're like 10 years ahead of you, you're always following, seeing what trajectory they're taking. And also, sometimes they make terrible mistakes. You learn from those mistakes too, right? It's not just the good that you learn from. You learn from their mistakes as well. What does the Western society do? It says, no, take people, just put them in one age.
Yeah, grade school.
Yeah, put them in their grade school. And when they're in college, like they're only all together. I think it's one of the most the nursing home, the university, they're like extremes. Yeah. Like you're in college, people will say this, especially if they're dorming and they live there, you're with one set of age bracket for
Yeah.
4 years, your mental balance is off on what life is, what's important in life, and what's not. I think it's like completely messes you up. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's completely. It's completely like this whole the Prussian school model that we have in the West, which John Taylor Gatto was an expert talking about this stuff. It's so fake. This idea that you just need to be with your own age group the whole time,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
It's ridiculous.
you're just always with 8-year-olds, always with 9-year-olds. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've been a school teacher. I've been a school teacher, and I've been in situations like that where I've seen like teenage boys. They're all 13 years old, and when they get in class, they're goofing off. They're completely out of control. But then you take them to like the mesh in the evening for like an adult class.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're behaving really well.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why is that?
Even in one school, they're having in our local Islamic school, they're having the seniors and the juniors teach the little kids wudu, right?
Yeah.
How to make wudu. It's an example for them. The older people are like, oh shoot, I'm actually an example now, right? So I actually these kids look up to me. I need to actually act accordingly.
I need to be mature now. Yeah.
Yeah. Give them some sense of responsibility. So all that's really critical. What else would you like to add to this subject matter?
I think I would finish this point. Yeah, so we talked about the importance of getting this course together. I think that's definitely a big step for us for helping Muslims in the West is to have these courses set up, and that we sort of are strict about who we let get married and who we support to get married, and we make people do a course and pass an exam and so forth. I also remember something else that I talked about last night, because you mentioned as well earlier. Again, we have to have a purpose and an objective, and I think a lot of people, again, it's not just marriage, but you mentioned kids. And one of the things I said last night to my students is I said that when you have kids, like your objective has to be that you're going to raise righteous kids, and those righteous kids will not only look after you when you're old, but they'll make dua for you for you when you're gone.
Yeah.
Like that's like if that's not your objective, I don't know why you're having kids. Like if that's not, like, what's the point? Is it just zinat hayat dunya, like Allah says in Surah Al-Kahf? Is that what it is? If they're not going to make dua for you and read Quran for you and do other good deeds for you after you left this world, what is the point? It seems completely and it's like, I don't care how many houses you own or how many millions of dollars you have, you're a failure.
Yeah.
It's a straight up failure with your kids if you're not doing that. And I think to finish on the sector is the segment is a beautiful ayah that is in the book, at the beginning of the book, where Allah says in Surah Al-Rum that like Allah's put an ayah min ayatihi, right? That he's made spouses for you. And I remember Shaykh Yusuf Gabar, like he made this point on that ayah, and he said like I don't know if people realize this, but Allah has made it very clear in this ayah that your spouse is a sign of Allah.
SubhanAllah.
Your son is a spouse. So whatever you do, even if your marriage falls apart, never ever ever denigrate your spouse. Never ever denigrate your spouse. Even if it goes wrong and you have to end it for whatever reason, even that's never ever denigrate your spouse, because that's at the end of the day, it's still a sign of Allah.
Yeah.
And you have to respect the signs of Allah. So inshallah, if we move forward and we learn to take these things seriously, and when we root our marriages in ubudiyya to Allah and the love of Allah and the love of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we root it in knowledge, and we know what we're doing, and inshallah, if as people who run communities and have masjids, that we actually step up our game and make sure that we're not just marrying people off.
Yeah.
We're actually testing them. Yeah.
Any group of people that gives enough attention to a destination and focuses on getting there will get to that destination. And if you look around you, whether we like it or not, the bare bone basics of any community are numbers. And having a lot of numbers, maybe not the goal, but it definitely is a protective force, right? It's helps in the persuasion even of Islam. So when I look around, if you were to look today, and I look around, and 1 out of 1,000 people are Muslims in the world, versus looking around and saying 1 out of 3 in every 4 people, soon to be 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 people is a Muslim. That's not a strong proof, but it's definitely a persuasive measure that will persuade me. Okay, quarter of the world is not going to be that dumb, right? Yeah. I'm sure they had some people thinking, right? It is a number. That's why Shaytan, if you always look at it, he always tries to make his junud, he likes to expand them. Yeah. And he likes to make people feel, oh my gosh, everyone's out to get you. But that actual reality, right? Is that just an intimidation tactic? That
Yeah.
there are so many.
Yeah.
And what does the Prophet do to reassure us? He says, every single one of you has 10 angels protecting him. This hadith of Uthman ibn Affan. You have an angel on your right, on your left. There's so many angels around us to give us the feeling of numbers, right? Where I lived in Toms River, New Jersey, there was a city called Lakewood above us. In Lakewood, you had the Hasidic Jews live. Every time we drive up Route 9 north, you pass by, you spend about 5 minutes driving through Lakewood, New Jersey. And we would look out and say, these people are so odd. They're so weird, right? And one of their because it was like sloppy. It was almost like a ghetto, right? All the cars are broken. It smells bad. The street's not clean. And you always looked and you just saw every family has 9 and 10 kids. I'm not kidding you. It's like a kindergarten was like taking a field trip. And it's just a family. It's like one or two families. It's like a kindergarten class taking a field trip. You're crossing the streets like ducks. Right, and you look, they got 10 kids, and the mom and dad are so young. It's like, how many kids do these people produce? So, and we're like, oh, these people are so weird. Like, what kind of life is this? You live in this little apartment with 10 kids. All right, fast forward to 25 years later. That area now, the second generation is taken. They dominate the whole city of Lakewood.
Yeah.
They run every single position in Lakewood, and the whole city is based upon their needs, right? Because they run they've voted themselves into every position.
Yeah.
They're probably 80 to 90% of the population, and they're getting wealthy. There are restaurants now and the stores, even the ShopRite, they bought it. The local ShopRite, they bought it, and it's now like, I don't know, Glatt something. Kosher ShopRite, right? And it's high end. Everything there is high end now. And now they're seeping into Toms River. And our town is trying to stop them. So what do? They just buy properties cash, live in Lakewood, but they're now residents in Toms River too.
Oh, wow.
Now that you're residents, what can you do? You can vote, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like just look at the clock and look at your watch, and in 5 years, Toms River will be
Hasidic Jewish community.
Yeah. So it's not that it just speaks to the power of population. Any group of people that focuses on having more kids is just by sheer brute force going to defeat their rival opposition who doesn't believe in having kids.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a matter of time. You can hit your head against the wall if you don't like it, but that's the result. That's what's going to happen.
It's just pure demographics. That's it.
Pure demographics, yep.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
And the Prophet, peace be upon him, what did he say to us? He said, takatharu. Because many people say that the Prophet ﷺ described us at the end of time, we're so many, but we're weak. So therefore, we don't care about numbers. That's true in one sense. But also the Prophet did command us, takatharu. فَإِنِّي مُبَاهٍ بِكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Increase your numbers. I'm going to be proud of this on the Day of Judgment.
Yeah, I think also like I'll outnumber you as well. I'll outnumber the other. I'll outnumber the other through you.
Yeah. So let's now turn to let's shift gears here, unless you have any final thing to say.
No, I think we've covered that, inshallah. And I would just say people that this course is currently running live at British Muslim College, so you can find it on my Instagram or Telegram. We still have 7 sessions to go, and it's recorded. It's available on demand. So if you're able to join, come join. It's 8 p.m. UK time, which is this week, 4 p.m.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea to have this course. Do you have notes?
Slides? I'm just using the book.
MashaAllah.
I'm using the book. Also, the slides are just the hadith. They're on the screen, but it's the book, alhamdulillah.
Could you put the book up so everyone can see?
Yep. So that's it, right? So the husband and wife.
Very good, MashaAllah. You translated it.
Yeah, this was a couple of years ago back, mashallah.
And it's available on...
It's Amazon. It should be on all the Amazon site.
Beautiful.
And it's on nawawbooks.com as well.
Very nice.
Nawawbooks.
Very nice.
And I think Firdaus Books as well in the US. They have it. US and Canada Firdaus Books. I think they do it. I think they have some copies as well, inshallah.
Very good. All right, so that ends our first segment, and you can go. You want marriage mentorship? Go to starboardmarriage.com, and maybe one day we'll have an online event with Starboard where you give a lecture on this, right? That's what
Inshallah,
we
yeah.
need. We need attention. We need movement, right?
Mm.
It needs attention. It needs movement. It needs whatever we could throw at it. And we go with all our force and we'll get to our destination and things will be better.
Inshallah.
Let's now turn to another subject. Why is Arabic one of the most important subjects? Well, you don't learn anything about Allah and His Messenger when you do it, and some people get bored of it really quick, and they think it's all theory.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So this is what we were talking about earlier in our private conversations. And this, I found this beautiful story. This is from Dr. Ayman Shiwa, a big Damascus linguist who's now doing a course on Shu'un fil Arabiya, just like issues with the Arabic language. And the great linguist Tha'lib, he had this complaint. He complained to his student Al-Mujahid. He complained to him, and he said, I look at the people of Quran, and they've busied themselves with the Quran for fazu, right? They've engrossed themselves with the Quran, and they become successful.
Yeah.
I look at the people that have of hadith. They've busied themselves with the hadith, and they've become successful. I've looked at the people of fiqh. They've busied themselves with fiqh. They become successful. And he says, what about me? I've busied myself with Amr and Zayd, right? Because that's like, the fa'al of the maf'ul bihi and so forth. And he says, what's my outcome?
Yeah.
Right. So his students, I think the full name is Abu Bakr al-Mujahid. He said, I walked away, and then I had a dream that night, and I saw the Messenger of Allah. So I saw the Messenger of Allah said to me, he said, Iqra salami, right? Convey my salams to Tha'lib. He said this in the dream that night. The Messenger of Allah said to Abu Bakr, he said, give my salams to Tha'lib, and tell him that he is the sahib of al-ilm al-mustatil, right? He's like, which literally it's like the prolonged science, but the meaning you can think of it's like the all-encompassing science. It's the science that undergirds everything. And like you said to me earlier, it improves everything, because the point is like, how do you understand the Quran without Arabic? How do you understand the hadith without Arabic? How do you understand books of fiqh without Arabic? Like Dr. Ayman, for example, in that dars, he says, like, if a man says hiya talik in ذهبت هناك وهي طالق أن ذهبت هناك. It's a difference in meaning completely. In and an. If I say in, that's shartiyya, right?
Yep.
So she's divorced
It's
if she goes over there.
Yeah.
But if I say n, it's already done.
Because
right?
she went over there. Yeah.
Exactly. You see? But that's simply the difference of a hamza, of a kasra and a fatha. Right? So Arabic is that science that just undergirds everything. And is the access to everything. So this is what Messenger of Allah was conveying in that dream, that you don't underplay this. And when we look at the great ulama, they never downplayed Arabic. They never downplayed Arabic, especially like people like Imam Shafi, people even all the four Imams. They all put huge emphasis on Arabic, because Arabic is what opens up the brain to so many other sciences, and that's the feedback I get from my students when they get really into the Arabic, and they start having to do writing assignments or reading assignments and put these together. They say, like, I feel like the neurons in my brain are like reactivated. It's like things are happening that weren't there anymore. It's like foggy, like brain fog goes away. These kind of things. So it's a huge thing, and the fact that there's about 13 ayat in the Quran where Allah talks about the Quran as being Arabi, right? This is an Arabic Quran, and the fact that what the Arabs mean when the meaning of the word Arab in Arabic is clarity, right? It's clarity, whereas like the word Ajam, the word that's used for a foreigner, the word Ajam tends to mean someone who speaks unclearly, someone who speaks in a way that is hard to understand, which is why we have the word mu'jam for a dictionary, because that helps you get to the
words that you don't know.
Yeah, words that are unclear.
Can you please put up the something banner of sorts for the Arabic class that Sheikh Mahdi? Sheikh Mahdi will take you up the mountain of Arabic language, and if you're on Instagram, hop over to Safina Saadi's YouTube channel so you can see both pictures. We are with Sheikh Mahdi Lak right now. He teaches Arabic for ArcView. He teaches 3 different levels. He'll take you from scratch, and he will take you up level by level by level. Go to arcview.org to become his student. Let's get back to the critical and important nature of the Arabic language.
Is that thing on the screen the chart?
Not yet.
Okay,
I'm just going to put it up in a second. We don't have. I wish we had a simple poster for it. Maybe Salman could make that for us. Or just you
Yeah.
can just put a banner: study Arabic with Sheikh Mahdi Locke at arcview.org.
Alhamdulillah, Tawfiq. So yeah, we'll talk about it because that banner is actually about the levels we're looking at.
Yeah.
So Arabic has that. It has that rank and has that prestige, and there's no alim worth his salt who didn't have a
Yeah.
long hand in Arabic. It's absolutely crucial. You just don't get, and even in this day and age, you cannot claim to be. Even if you're dealing with Western academia, with rare exception, would you claim to be some sort of expert in the field of Islam if like the Arabic's not there and you're just
Yeah.
relying on translation? It's so
Mm-hmm.
crucial. But I think
Yeah.
also, and this is why I want to bring up the importance of the proficiency test, is we have to understand that right now the world is changing, right? So we are moving away from like a Western dominated world,
Yeah.
right? We're moving towards like what they call like a multi polar world
Yep.
where English is not going to be the dominant medium,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is right now, and it has been for several decades, but we're going to be looking at a place where obviously languages like Russian, like Mandarin, Chinese, they're going to come up to the fore. And Arabic is going to come to the fore. Arabic is going to become more important. So what we're aiming to do here with ArcView Arabic is and this is crucial for anything, but especially for this, we want to make sure that everyone has a very clear goal of where they're headed forward. So what's been picking up recently in the Arab world, and I still have my contacts, my links in Jeddah and other parts of Saudi Arabia, is that we're now moving to the field, of course, Arabic proficiency tests. Because obviously with English, yes, it's been the case for several decades, where there's a whole structure in place where, okay, if you want to be an English teacher, you take a TEFL course or a CELTA course, like these 120-hour programs, and you become a qualified English teacher. And then we have these exams that test in the proficiency that of international recognition, like TOEFL, which has been around for 60 years, IELTS, which has been around for about 40 plus years. So, older than I am, these tests.
Yeah.
And
What's the Arabic one?
there isn't one. That's the thing. There isn't one. You see, because there hasn't been that demand. Like the one that I'm looking at right now for ArcView right now, which I think we'll do, is the Hamza test, which has
Yeah.
only been around for like maybe 18 months, right? Or if that. Because again, as you can imagine, because of sheer economic reasons, there's been a huge motivation over the past several decades for people from, say, the Arab world, or from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America, even from Europe, to go to the UK or to go to the US and get a PhD or a degree in English
Mm-hmm.
from an American or British university, because people attach prestige to that. And then they go back to their home countries and they get good jobs and they get a lot of respect and so forth. Like wow, you did it. You got a PhD from America.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's been. But now we're at the growing stage. We're at the early stages of a shift where, again, people are not going to be looking just at America or just at Britain or just at, the people are going to be looking, okay, well, maybe I could study in Russia, maybe I could study in China, maybe I could study somewhere in the Arab world. And some of these Arab universities, like King Abdulaziz University, for example, they're getting more and more recognition for their research and things like this. So these proficiency tests for Arabic are going to start coming to the fore, because again, you have to understand the demand has not been there. I think you know this better than I do. How people are flocking to America to get, American degrees or British degrees and so forth. But that's starting to change. So yes, when I did my MA at King Abdulaziz University, I didn't do an Arabic proficiency test. They asked me to do an aptitude test. I did an aptitude test in Arabic. Right, but that wasn't like language specific. That was just to make sure I'm not, mentally challenged or anything. Alhamdulillah, I'm not in Arabic. So we got that. So what's happening now is there's a test called the Hamza test, which is the King Salman Global Academy for the Arabic Language. It's a new thing, and they've set up a proficiency test. And the way these proficiency tests work, especially we look at English as an example, is that they're based on something called the Common European Framework, right? And I believe it's called the Common European Framework because the Europeans have so many languages, right? So obviously they're always testing each other to see if your French is good enough, your German is good enough, if you're going to move around Europe and study different places. But this is what people are using in the Arab world. This is what people use for in America as well, for English and so forth. So what I'm getting at is, so in the Common European Framework, you basically have 6 levels, or I forgot, I only have 5 fingers in this hand. So it's like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, C2 being the highest, A1 being the lowest. What I've looked into this matter, and I'm now in active conversation now with the people who run the Hamza test in Saudi Arabia through my contacts. I'm now openly, we're discussing how to get ArcView students onto this exam and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Is that chart available on the screen?
The chart for that's on the website.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
pull it
lists
up.
like from A1 through to C2.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's on the screen.
Omar will put it up right now.
Okay. So when you look at this chart, what you'll notice is that so this exam covers levels from A2 to C1, right? So the point here is that obviously A1 is too low to test, right? That's people who are basically, they know the alphabet, they can read a few words and write a few words, and it's just basic. There's no point testing that. And then C2 is seen as too high. Like C2 is like, that's where you pretty much sound like a native speaker, and you probably have a very, very good vocabulary. And that's beyond the requirements of most academic institutions and employers. Like if you're going to get a job like in English, no one's going to ask you for C2 proficiency, unless it's something highly specialized. So if you are applying for, like let's say if you're a non-native English speaker and you're going to apply to study at a university in the US or the UK, they're going to ask you if you do IELTS, which is probably the most famous English proficiency test, stands for International English Language Testing Systems. If you get on a scale of 10, if you get 6, you can get into an undergrad program, right? And if you get 6.5, that should be good enough for like an MA or PhD program. Now 6 to 7 on an IELTS scale is basically equivalent of B2. That's basically upper intermediate level. That's B2 level, right? Yeah. So if that's the case for English, then I can see that's basically what would happen with Arabic. So alhamdulillah, with our program with ArcView, we use, especially for the Monday and the Tuesday class, the beginner and the intermediate classes, is we're using the Catalogue series. The Catalogue series is based on that model, right? So like starter, like absolute, like 101, that's your A1 book, and then when you move into elementary level, that's your A2 level. That's your A2. So basically I have my Monday group is like halfway through the A2 level. My Tuesday group is halfway through the B1 level, or beyond. No, they're halfway through. So what this means, alhamdulillah, is we have very, very clear dates now. Because I've always said to people, like, it's a 5-year program, it's a 5-year, and now we can actually put dates on this. So I would say that for my Tuesday group, they will have completed the B2 book by December 2027. Right, by December 27, and that's when they'll be, and that's basically after just over three years and a bit of studying, they should be ready to do the Hamza test and come away with B2 proficiency. And then the Monday group, they would just be one year behind that. So like for them, 3 years, by roughly December 2027, they should be ready to do the Hamza proficiency test. And obviously people who join later, catch up with the recordings, they might do it quicker. But alhamdulillah, that's a clear goal for people, and part of the reason why this Hamza test chosen, obviously there are not a lot of tests out there, but the good thing about this is because this actually is officially run by the government of Saudi Arabia. So if for people who, again, we're trying to think of the bigger picture. I know I know there are a lot of people, not only in where I am in the UK, the people in the US, they are thinking about like should I get up and move to Medina? Should I get up and live in these places? Should I get a job in these places? This is going to help you. Right. Obviously, if you land in these countries, whatever your field is, whether it's dentistry or engineering, whatever, and you apply for jobs in these countries, and then you can demonstrate that you have like B2, at least B2 proficiency in Arabic, as objectively measured and tested by a government institution in Saudi Arabia, then you're set. You're set, inshallah.
Quick question: are you talking about just modern standard Arabic, Fusha Arabic, or as Stephen A. Smith calls it, Fusha Arabic, or are you talking about any specific spoken Arabic?
Oh, I'm talking about both. I'm talking about both because we have to get we have to get sort of out of that ideal of, because we tend to think a lot about MSA, Quranic Arabic, but we have to see Arabic as bigger than that. Arabic is the language of life. It's the language of life, and if we just think about, for example, Quranic Arabic, you have to remember that Quranic Arabic is passive, in the sense that yes, you can read the Quran and you can get wonderful and beautiful gleanings of how Allah speaks to you based on the words that are used. It's like something like Dr. Fadl Samarai says, when you break down the Quran, you see that not only does every word have like a deliberate artistic intent, it's like every letter does, right? And there's meanings that you derive from that. But the point is, because it's Allah's speech, it cannot be imitated.
Yeah.
It cannot be imitated. So you need to incorporate more of the Sunnah, for example, because the Sunnah is the peak of human speech. So people need to focus a lot more on the Sunnah and read more of the Ahadith. Mashallah, I was talking to some students earlier on WhatsApp, and they were saying, what can we read that's acceptable for us, that'd be easy for us? And I said, get a copy. I sent them, get a copy of the Dar al-Minhaj edition, not just any edition, but the Dar al-Minhaj edition of the Adhkar of Imam Nawawi, right? Because that's it's beautiful print, it's a beautiful publication, but on top of that, it's fully vocalized. Right? All the harakats are there. All the harakats are there. And Imam Nawawi's English is his English. I wish his Arabic is very, very straightforward. Because he's just telling you this is the dhikr that you make at this time. This is the dhikr you make at that time. Yeah. These are some of the related ahkam. And we've read parts of it, like in our Q&A sessions. We got together and just read parts of the Adhkar together. I had my students translate parts of it. I actually got them to translate like a page from it during the summer, like we're doing a Bridging the Gap course. Which was our comparative Arabic English grammar course. We did that in the summer, and students loved it. And they did it very, very well that's what we're trying to incorporate. And the Atakellam series, that's giving you both. That's showing you like classical Arabic, but it's also giving you modern standard Arabic. It's giving you the modern expressions and phrases. So you're learning how to function in the Arab world. You're learning, how to book a flight, how to go to a hotel, how to go to a restaurant. You're getting all of that, but you're also learning about how to, we're covering, I incorporate as well, like how to read ayat, how to read a hadith, how to look at these other things. And that's especially what I'm doing with my advanced class, because we've done the Ajrumiyya, we've done the Shart of the Sunniyya by Shaykh Mahdi al-Hamid, rahimahullah, the great Egyptian Shaykh of grammar at Al-Azhar. And now we're doing on Sarf, we're covering Sarf now. We're doing the book called Sarf al-Arabi Ahkam wa Ma'anin. So Arabic morphology, the rulings as well as the meanings, right? Which is deep. People need to know the meanings. So this is by Dr. Muhammad Fadl Samarai, great Iraqi scholar, and he's the son of Fadl Samarai, who's like probably the greatest living Arabic linguist right now.
His videos are great. Fadl Samarai. His tafsir is something else.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to incorporate, and we want to do the fathers, but we want to do his book at Ta'bir al-Qurani next. That's what we want to do next year, and so that Wednesday group, I want us to carry on just reading more beneficial books. We're trying to incorporate it all. I don't want to be like just Quranic Arabic. I don't want to just be like Martian Arabic. We're trying to incorporate everything and give people Arabic that has day-to-day usage, but also Arabic that gives you the access to the text, access to the great, like wonderful, amazing corpus of literature that we have. So that's what we're working towards.
I think that's a great approach. And when I taught Arabic, the textbook that we used did have sections on that. It was like all classical Arabic, but then it'll have a section here on the side on very common common sayings in the Egyptian dialect, then a little bit in the Moroccan dialect, then a Syrian dialect, just to give the student a little bit of a background idea of how things are said if they ever were to travel abroad. So it is useful. It is very useful. Yeah. Very good.
So alhamdulillah, I just think it's really important that, again, that students have a goal, because like, and you and I have had this discussion privately that, we don't want people to be joining RFU Arabic, and because I've seen other institutes do this, unfortunately, where they create like a dependency culture. And it's like, that's it, I'm your Arabic teacher for life. Yeah. You say, no, like, no, that's not what we're trying to do here. We want students to have a clear target. Like, this is what I'm aiming for. And then once I complete these many levels, then I go for my proficiency test. I pass my proficiency test, and then I'm free to go. Right. And like, again, if you're welcome to stay. We're not kicking you out. I'll teach you forever if I can. And ahyan Allah, I'll keep me alive. I'll keep teaching Arabic. But if you once you've reached that benchmark, and you pass proficiency test, and now that's it, you're qualified. You can go off. You can study at an Arabic university. You can get a job in the Arab world. Go for it. So we want to make sure people have that understanding.
That's a great idea. It's the Hamza proficiency test is what we're looking to get you to pass that test. It gives you an objective document to say, this is what I know, right? And you could refer them and say, yes, they passed this exam, right? And so it gives us, just like in a madhab, there are certain books to be covered. It gives you an idea of how far along am I. We're able to talk as well. If I'm going to, for example, if I need you to teach me, or I need you to teach someone else, I can simply ask, like, what did you read under, right? And then you should have a reference. You should be willing to easily say, go ask so-and-so. We read it with them. So that idea of objectivity and reference, it gives great structure to our study, rather than just swimming around and we don't know what we're doing, where we're going. And as I said earlier, when humans have a destination, when there's an end goal, then we usually get there. Humans usually get to their destination. Most people who don't achieve anything, it's not because of inability. It's lack of a destination, or they have one, but they keep changing it.
Yeah,
right?
and it's a lack of certainty. People can't really sort of, like, that's what I was saying to you. Like, you know, like it's like a marketing technique. You know, for example, I was listening to this guy in the UK who's explaining this point. He said, you know, if you're an airline, never ever if your flight's delayed, never ever tell people at the airport your flight's delayed, because what does that mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you tell people your flight's delayed by an hour,
Exactly.
it's an inconvenience.
Yeah.
It's an inconvenience, but they know. They know, okay, I have an hour. I can work around that. I can go to the bathroom. I can eat a meal. I can buy some souvenirs. There's something to do. So
Leaving it open-ended is a disaster.
Yeah, it paralyzes people. It absolutely paralyzes people, because you don't know what can you do. What does delayed mean? So we do not want people in that situation where it's like, okay, how long are you gonna be here? Well, no, now it's very clear. So we can now say that if you come in and you start at the A1 101 level, you are looking at 130. Like if you do if you follow like the live sessions, you're looking at like 130 weeks, basically 130 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Which is, and if we do 30 weeks a year, that's 150 weeks in 5 years, right? But if you get it on 130 weeks, that means like in just over 4 years, you would go from A1 and you would finish like B2 level, right? So after just over 4 years, you can actually go and apply for go for the proficiency test and get B2 level, which should be good enough for you. And if you want to go for C1 level, yes, that's fine. That's fine. But like B2 should be good enough for educational purposes or for professional purposes in the Arab world.
Okay, very, very good. It's so important to always bring up this subject. We got to keep pushing Arabic. Every discipline has a language, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much the medical fields, it's all in English worldwide. Coding, the coders throughout the world, they're speaking the same language. They're coding the same 1 or 2 or 3 languages. So likewise, on our Deen, we have a language, and Allah Ta'ala is most wise in setting one language. Some people ask, well, wouldn't it have been better if revelation came in everyone's language? Yeah, that happened in the past, but it didn't unite people.
It caused division.
Causes more division. So, but when you have one language, right, it brings people together. Same thing as concept of one prophet. So thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. You're in England right now, so it's maybe 9 or 10 o'clock.
It's 7 alhamdulillah.
7 o'clock in Bradford, England. Thank you for coming on. Sheikh Mahdi is on at least once every 2 months. Always having something interesting to say. He's a prolific translator of the books of the Syrian scholars. He leads our Arabic and Shafi'i fiqh course here. Shafi'i, both from zero up the mountain, he'll take you, inshallah ta'ala. So sign up at arcview.org for Sheikh Mahdi's Arabic course if you're a Shafi'i, for Shafi'i fiqh. Thank you very much for coming on.
All right, shukran. Barakallahu feek. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. All right. Let's take 1 or 2 questions before I wrap up. We're going to take class earlier today. I'm seeing a number of pretty good questions here about Sheikh Mahdi. Yes, he is of European background, Russian. There's some British. There's some Canadian, some American in there. But yes, he is a Caucasian convert into Islam. He's been studying for over 25 years. And he has lived in Jeddah, some people call it Jeddah. And now he lives in the UK. He lives in England. Why is there some discussion about Iblis? Iblis's relatives here. Did Iblis have an offspring? Oh, I don't know. Jinns do have offspring, yes. Do we know that? Is it kufr or misguided to believe that his grandson became a Muslim? Why would that be kufr? Abu Lahab's kids became Muslim, right? Right? Abu Jahl, Ikram ibn Abi Jahl entered Islam. It's not so much that is a kufr, it's just that where would you get that piece of information? The only place you would get that is a mukashafa from a person. That someone saw it in a dream. At that point, it's not the belief, it's the fact itself is very speculative at that point. One person saw it as a dream or whatever, mukashafa. Where is that on the totem pole of certainty? It's pretty low. It's just dhanni. If you trust that person, who knows if that dream, what the nature of that dream was, right? It's definitely not going to be a point of certainty. It's just a statement maybe that person had such a dream. But ilmun la yanfa' wa jahlun la yadur. It's knowledge that really doesn't benefit, and it's ignorance that doesn't harm you. But more important than you asking about the ruling, step back, take this as a learning example. Don't ask about the ruling. Ask about the certainty of the piece of information. Where did it come from? Where would such an unseen knowledge come from? It can only come from, I don't think there's any hadiths about this. No ayahs of Quran about this. It's only going to come through the mukashafa of a shaykh. Mukashafa, like a vision or a dream. Immediately right there, it's speculative. It could be right, it could be wrong. It's not an insult to the shaykh at all to say, well, it's dhanni, so I don't have to believe that. It's not an insult at all. Those mukashafat, those claims of those spiritual visions, if you trust the person, then you may believe it as a permissible to believe that he had that vision. It could be a very righteous person and he could see incorrectly. You see a dream that he saw two different things, and just like a righteous person who says, oh, there he is, John is robbing Bob. He may be mistaken. That might not be John. That might not be Bob. He thought he saw John. Visions are no different. Dream visions are no different. I thought I saw this dream, but it was actually different.
Maybe it's from one of those books, like
history books?
Yeah, you know how they talk about like the lost tribes and all that.
So where would they have gotten it from?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, maybe like someone met, like there's like narrations of someone saying I met Iblis.
So mukashafa.
Yeah,
Still mukashafa.
like
Yeah. We can immediately say it's based on a speculative source in the first place. So becomes therefore, as a thinking pattern, don't immediately entertain whether it's a valid or not. Go back to the actual fact and question the fact, right? Is that just like in court? John stole. Says who? It says Bob. All right, I'm not going to argue with Bob. I'm going to see if Bob is even a credible witness. I'm going to try to destroy him as a witness. This is called jarh. And if he withstands that, then I can discuss his testimony. So don't discuss the testimony right away. Go back and see if what the source of the knowledge is. All right. Are petty bribes permitted, such as getting out of a parking ticket? Probably those are minor sins. Breaking those civil laws, like those roadway laws, all those probably minor sins. Thoughts on Mutah marriages? They're not allowed in Islam. Misyar marriages, if the Misyar marriage in Islam, they formally agree that the wife does not have certain rights, which Allah gave her. That part of it is not allowed. It is always her right. But in the marriage itself, she may forego it. But it's still her right. What's the difference? The difference is that you're entering in saying, these are not my rights anymore. That you can't do. Okay. But you can get married saying, listen, I know these are my rights. I understand you have a certain situation. I have a certain situation. And I understand that I have the right to forego these rights of mine. That is permitted because it's not officially foregoing her rights. Allah gave her certain rights. But within the marriage, she may forego those rights. Because the reason that that's permitted is because the moment she no longer wants to forego her rights, she says, I'm no longer foregoing my right and I demand my rights. Fasting on behalf of the deceased. Yeah, the Hanafi school allows you to donate any good deeds to the deceased and the living. The Maliki school, they agree fully on money, charitable acts to the deceased. And they disagree on dhikr. But the latter Malikiya said that in light of what all the other madhahib are doing, then we should continue to do that. There's no loss in that. At the very least, it's a dua for them, even if your good deeds don't reach them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we got to run. There's a lot of questions here. There are a lot of questions here that I'd like to get to, but we got to run. Jazakumullahu khairan, folks. We will see you tomorrow. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم.